Welcome to Mindset in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Mindset in Stone podcast.
We are really excited to get into this one today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to start by having you, the listener, picture stepping into a doctor's office. You know, you've got a broken arm, but there is this profound comfort in modern medicine. The doctor takes an x-ray, they clip that black and white film up on the light board, and they just point to this jagged white line.
It's totally binary.
Exactly. There's no ambiguity. There it is, a fracture. It gives everyone in the room this undeniable explanation for what went wrong.
You really love that kind of clarity.
We crave it. But when you leave the hospital and, step into the much messier world of human achievement, you realize pretty quickly that our cultural x-ray machine is just completely broken.
Oh, totally broken.
Because when we look at monumental success or even crushing failure, we want that same binary clarity. We want to point to a jagged white line and say, there it is. That's the reason.
And for centuries, the jagged white line we always point to is this concept of talent.
Right. So today, our mission is to just completely dismantle that x-ray machine. We are taking you on a deep dive into an expansive, honestly disruptive stack of notes and longitudinal studies, all anchored by Angela Duckworth's groundbreaking research in her book, Grit: The Power of Passion and Perseverance.
And this is such a necessary deconstruction, because it isn't just about semantics. Our goal today is to unravel this deeply embedded cultural myth, this pervasive idea that raw, innate talent is the ultimate non-negotiable driver of success.
The whole, if you don't have the gift, you don't get the glory thing.
Exactly. We are going to guide you through the actual science of achievement. We want to explore exactly why passion and perseverance consistently outperform giftedness.
Which is wild to think about.
Right. And more importantly, we want to give you practical takeaways. We're going to show you how you can systematically cultivate these traits in your own life.
So to be clear, this is not an audio textbook. You aren't here to be lectured at. We're treating you like the third person sitting here at the table with us.
Pull up a chair.
Yeah, exactly. So let's jump right in. We are going to start with a mystery, a very expensive, decades-old mystery at the United States Military Academy at West Point.
It is just the perfect place to start, because West Point is essentially a laboratory for high achievement. The admissions process is famously brutal.
Every year you have roughly 14,000 high school juniors who start the application process.
And these are not your average students.
No, these kids have been preparing for this for years. You need top-tier SAT scores, stellar transcripts, and you have to pass these rigorous physical fitness tests.
Plus, you can't just apply.
Right, you need an actual official nomination, usually from a member of Congress or a senator. Out of those 14,000 hopefuls, they winnow the group down to just 1,200 cadets.
And the way they make those final selections is based on a metric called the whole candidate score,
which is basically their ultimate, scientifically calibrated guess at how much raw talent an applicant has.
Yeah, it takes into account academic prowess, leadership potential, physical fitness. The assumption is, if we test for every conceivable metric of excellence, we will identify the naturals.
One's built to survive. But here is where the x-ray machine breaks. Even with all of that intense vetting, 1 in 5 of these elite cadets drops out before graduation.
And a massive chunk of those dropouts don't even make it through the first summer.
Yeah, they leave during this grueling 7-week initiation called Beast Barracks, or just Beast. And we need to paint a picture of what Beast actually is.
Oh, it's intense.
The days start at 5 a.m., no weekends off, no breaks except for monitored meals. They are pushed to their absolute physical limits.
So who spends 2 years of high school fighting to get in just to quit in the first 2 months?
Right. And the real puzzle is that the whole candidate score completely failed to predict who would stay and who would leave.
The cadets with the absolute highest scores were just as likely to wash out as the cadets with the lowest acceptable scores.
Which drove the military crazy.
Well, what's fascinating here is that this wasn't a new problem. Back in 1955, they brought in this prominent psychologist named Jerry Kagan.
Okay.
He was trying to unearth their deep unconscious motives with all these psychological tests. He was looking for that jagged white line.
Did it work?
It totally failed. Zero predictive value. It wasn't until military psychologist Mike Matthews and then Angela Duckworth looked at the data from a different angle that the answer crystallized.
Okay, let's unpack this. What did they see that everyone else missed?
Matthews recognized something profound. Beast Barracks didn't just test your current abilities. It presented challenges that fundamentally exceeded your current skills.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Think about an elite high school student. They are the valedictorian, they are used to succeeding. For the very first time, they are being asked to operate at a deficit.
And when you are faced with a challenge that overloads your skill level, your perfect SAT score doesn't help you scale a wall.
Exactly. It completely separates talent from tenacity. When you are sleep-deprived and lonely, aptitude isn't what keeps you from quitting. What keeps you there is an internal mechanism that refuses to surrender.
Which is grit.
Yes. That is the exact mechanism Duckworth's grit scale measured. It's a short questionnaire measuring passion and perseverance for long-term goals.
And she gave this to the cadets.
On the second day of Deast. And it turned out to be an astoundingly reliable predictor of who made it through. Better than SATs, better than leadership ranks. Talent and grit are completely separate.
You know, relying on the whole candidate score is kind of like drafting a fantasy football team based purely on combine stats.
Right.
Like how fast they run, how high they jump, while totally ignoring whether or not the player actually likes playing football when they're getting tackled.
That's a great way to put it.
But we are so obsessed with the combine stats, which leads us to this massive psychological concept, the naturalness bias.
The naturalness bias is one of the most insidious hidden prejudices we hold. We all claim that we value hard work. We love the narrative of the striver.
We have those motivational posters in the office.
Exactly. But when tested, our subconscious betrays us. We secretly favor the natural, the person who seems effortlessly gifted.
The research on this is just wild. You brought up Chiyo Young-se's experiments, and they absolutely shattered my perception of my own bias.
She's a classical musician and a researcher.
Right, so she did these experiments on professional musicians. She had them listen to 2 identical piano recordings, but she manipulated the backstory.
Sneaky.
Very. She told the listeners one recording was played by a natural prodigy and the other by a striver known for relentless practice.
And remember, the audience were professional musicians. They know how many hours go into mastering an instrument.
Yet when asked to evaluate the performances, the musicians judged the natural to be objectively better, even though the audio tracks were literally identical.
Their subconscious preference completely overrode their stated beliefs.
She even replicated this in the business world with entrepreneurs. To get the exact same level of funding as a natural, the striver entrepreneur had to have 4 more years of experience and $40,000 more in startup capital.
It's crazy. We literally place a financial penalty on hard work.
We tax people for trying hard.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you can see how this played out catastrophically in the corporate world. In the late 90s, McKinsey published this influential report called The War for Talent.
Oh, I've heard of this.
Their thesis was that companies would rise and fall based entirely on hoarding A players, people with the highest raw intellectual firepower.
It created corporate environments that worship sheer brain power over, integrity or teamwork.
And Malcolm Gladwell points out that no company epitomized this disastrous philosophy more than Enron.
Right. They implemented that brutal rank and yang system. They graded employees, put them in a bell curve, and just fired the bottom 15% every year.
It did not matter how well you did objectively. If you were deemed the weakest relative to your peers, you were escorted out.
That kind of system creates a highly toxic narcissistic culture. You constantly have to show off your intellect. You hide your mistakes.
You refuse to ask for help because asking for help proves you aren't a natural. It completely disincentivizes ethical behavior. Enron resulted in mass corporate fraud.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, and I have to push back a little bit.
Go for it.
We've established that worshiping talent leads to terrible outcomes. But I'm looking at someone like Usain Bolt or Albert Einstein. You cannot just grit your way into running a 9.58-second 100-meter dash.
No, you can't.
So how do we reconcile this? Talent has to matter.
Yeah, that is a crucial distinction. Talent absolutely matters. Duckworth defines talent as the rate at which you acquire a skill when you apply effort.
Okay, that makes sense.
Being able to quickly climb the learning curve is a wonderful advantage. The problem is that our obsession with it distracts us from the rest of the equation.
Why are we so eager to be distracted?
Well, the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche argued that our vanity actively promotes the cult of the genius.
Wait, our vanity? How does elevating someone else protect our own vanity?
Because if we think of genius as something magical and divine, we are no longer obliged to compare ourselves to them.
Oh.
If someone achieves greatness purely through agonizing effort, it holds a mirror up to our own laziness. It forces us to ask, why haven't I done that?
But if we call them a natural, we let ourselves off the hook.
Precisely. Nietzsche wrote that to call someone divine means here there is no need to compete.
So if I watch a gold medalist swimming and I just shrug and say, well, he's a fish, I don't have to feel bad about the fact that I didn't go to the gym today.
It's the ultimate defense mechanism.
So if talent is largely a distraction to protect our egos, how do we accurately calculate the actual value of hard work?
That takes us to the math of achievement.
I love this part. We had these two historical giants having a family feud over success. Francis Galton, who was a literal child prodigy, wrote this book claiming high achievement was mostly about innate ability.
But then his half-cousin reads the book and chimes in.
And his cousin happens to be Charles Darwin.
Right. Darwin firmly believed that men did not differ much in their baseline intellect, only in their zeal and their capacity for hard work.
Darwin didn't even self-identify as a genius. He viewed himself quite literally as a plodder. He spent 8 entire years just studying barnacles.
That isn't a flash of divine genius. That is the compounding interest of relentless effort. And Duckworth developed 2 core psychological formulas to explain this.
Let's lay them out for the listener.
The first equation is talent multiplied by effort equals skill.
Okay.
The second equation is skill multiplied by effort equals achievement.
So when you look at those 2 formulas side by side, what do they reveal?
They reveal the foundational math of grit. Effort counts twice.
Effort counts twice.
Yes. First, you apply your effort to your baseline talent to build a skill. But having a skill isn't the same as achieving something. You then have to apply effort again, taking that acquired skill and putting it into the world to produce an achievement.
Effort is the multiplier in both steps.
Let's say you have a natural who is twice as talented as a striver. But the striver works twice as hard. The natural might reach the exact same level of skill in half the time.
Right.
But because the striver is working harder and longer, they are employing that skill much more often. In the long run, the striver's achievement dramatically eclipses the natural's.
This perfectly aligns with sociologist Dan Chambliss and his study, The Mundanity of Excellence.
Oh, that's a brilliant study.
He spent 6 years studying competitive swimmers. And he found that superlative performance isn't magic. It's just the accretion of dozens of mundane, ordinary acts synthesized over time.
He tells a story about Mark Spitz, the swimmer who won 7 gold medals. Years after retiring, Spitz was swimming some practice sprints. And even though another swimmer was actually beating him, the whole team stopped to watch Spitz.
And someone whispered, "My God, he's a fish."
The naturalness bias again. They look at the finished product and call it divine. But Chambliss points out that every component of Spitz's greatness, his stroke, his flip turn, his diet, is just a specific, mundane action.
It's all doable.
The excellence comes from the relentless effort to put it all together.
Think of your life like a cross-country road trip. Talent is simply the top speed of your car. You might have a Ferrari, and I have a Honda Civic. But effort is how much gas you put in the tank and how many hours you actually spend driving each day. A Honda Civic that drives for 12 hours a day is always going to go further than a Ferrari that sits in the driveway.
That is an excellent analogy. Can a Honda Civic enter a Formula One race and win just by driving a lot?
Right. If I just try hard enough, can I be an Olympic swimmer?
No, there are biological advantages. You cannot train for height or a larger wingspan.
So biology does play a part.
It does. But as Harvard psychologist William James noted back in 1907, the human individual usually lives far, far within their limits.
We hit artificial ceilings.
Precisely. We hit psychological and motivational ceilings long before we ever brush up against our actual biological limits. For the vast majority of us, biology is not the bottleneck. Effort
is. We leave so much gas in the tank. So effort is the engine. But effort is exhausting. You get tired, you get bored. How do high achievers sustain that effort over decades?
They need a psychological framework. They need to understand what grit actually is.
Let's define it.
Grit is passion and perseverance for long-term goals. Let's look at perseverance first, specifically the 1940s Harvard treadmill test. Researchers took healthy college men and put them on a treadmill. They set it at a punishing, artificially steep angle to see how long they could endure the pain before quitting.
The average time was just 5 minutes.
But decades later, they found something incredible. The amount of time those men stayed on that treadmill was a remarkably reliable predictor of their adult psychological well-being.
Throughout their entire lives. And it wasn't about baseline physical fitness, right?
No, they adjusted for that. The treadmill wasn't testing their legs, it was testing their minds, their willingness to endure discomfort for a goal.
But staying on a treadmill is a one-time event. Grit is about getting back on it every day. That's where passion comes in.
But our cultural definition of passion is heavily skewed toward infatuation, like buying all the gear for a new hobby and abandoning it a month later.
Guilty as charged.
Passion, in the context of grit, isn't about intensity. It is about consistency over time.
I want you, the listener, to visualize a pyramid right now. At the bottom are your low-level goals, specific daily tasks like answering emails or going to the gym. In the middle are your mid-level goals, getting a promotion, losing 10 pounds. But at the very peak of this pyramid, sitting alone, is your top-level goal, your ultimate compass.
Pete Carroll, the legendary football coach, forces his players to grapple with this. He asks them, do you have a life philosophy?
He wants to know their top-level goal.
Yes. Gritty people have a singular top-level goal that organizes everything below it.
A lack of grit usually presents as structural chaos in this pyramid. We've all seen it. Having a bunch of mid-level goals that have nothing to do with each other.
Or having a lofty top-level goal with absolutely zero low-level goals supporting it.
Think of a goal hierarchy like a GPS route on your phone. A low-level goal is just a specific street. If you hit a roadblock, you don't throw your car in the ditch.
You detour.
Exactly. You find a new street. But your final destination never changes.
I love that analogy.
But wait, doesn't this mean gritty people are just incredibly stubborn? What if a street really isn't working out?
Here's the paradox. Gritty people actually quit all the time. They are strategic quitters. They are highly flexible at the bottom of their goal hierarchy. If a tactic is failing, they abandon it quickly and ruthlessly.
They quit the tactic, but never the mission.
Giving up on a tactic because it isn't serving your top-level goal is smart.
This actually brings us to our first practical takeaway for you, the listener. Tonight, sit down and physically write out your goal hierarchy. Draw the pyramid. Map out your low, mid, and top-level goals.
See if they actually align or if you're wasting energy on tactics that don't serve your ultimate destination.
Yes. Okay, so knowing that grit requires this compass is great. But are you simply born with it? Or can you build it?
The data here is incredibly encouraging. When Duckworth administered the grit scale to American adults, older adults scored significantly higher than younger adults.
The maturation principle. We literally grow into our grit.
Yes, grit grows as we age and learn from failure. And if you don't want to wait 30 years, Duckworth identified 4 psychological assets you can develop to accelerate this.
From the inside out.
The first is interest.
We hear follow your passion all the time.
But that implies passion strikes like a lightning bolt. The reality is that early interests are incredibly fragile. They require years of active cultivation.
Will Shortz, the New York Times crossword editor, is a great example. He didn't just pop out of the womb doing crosswords effortlessly.
No, he said he is always actively stretching his brain, seeking out new wordplay. Passion is the active, lifelong commitment to deepening a fascination.
Once you cultivate that interest, you move to the second asset, practice.
And we aren't talking about naive practice. We are talking about cognitive psychologist Anders Ericsson's concept of deliberate practice.
This completely changed how I view skill acquisition.
Naive practice is just doing what you already know how to do. Deliberate practice is a highly structured method with 4 non-negotiable elements.
Let's break those down. This is actually our second practical takeaway for the listeners.
First, you must have a clearly defined stretch goal focused on a microscopic weakness. Not, I want to get better at basketball, but I want to improve the arc of my left-handed layups by 5 degrees.
Very specific.
Second, 100% focus and effort. Third, immediate and informative feedback. And fourth, repetition with reflection and refinement.
Deliberate practice is like going to the gym. And instead of just doing bicep curls because it makes you feel strong, you intentionally walk over to the one machine you hate the most.
You work the exact muscle that is weakest. Duckworth tested this at the National Spelling Bee. The grittier kids didn't study more hours overall. They did more painful, solitary, deliberate practice.
But wait, if gritty people are always doing this miserable, frustrating work, how can they claim they love what they do?
You have to separate the behavior from the experience. Deliberate practice is the behavior. It's grueling, But flow is the experience. Flow is that joyful performance state where time disappears.
The burn of practice buys you the joy of flow.
Exactly. They embrace the struggle because it's the toll required to access flow.
So here's that practical takeaway in action. Tomorrow, design a deliberate practice routine. Pick a specific time to focus for just 20 minutes on a single frustrating weakness in your skill set.
That's a great habit to start.
So we have interest in practice. But eventually, internal fascination won't keep you on the treadmill when you hit a real crisis.
Your motivation has to evolve and look outward. That brings us to purpose and hope.
The third asset is purpose.
In this context, purpose is the intention to contribute to the well-being of others. Gritty people scored dramatically higher on the pursuit of eudaimonic happiness, a meaningful, other-centered life.
Like the parable of the bricklayers. 3 guys are laying bricks. One says, I'm laying bricks. The second says, I'm building a church.
And the third says, I am building the house of God.
All 3 are doing the same back-breaking work. But the third man's effort is fueled by a transcendent purpose.
We see this with Alex Scott, the little girl with a severe form of pediatric cancer. She started a lemonade stand, not to buy toys, but to raise money to help her doctors help other kids.
Her other-centered purpose grew into a foundation that raised over $100 million. Her grit was indestructible because it was anchored to the well-being of others.
That leads us to the fourth internal asset. Hope, but not passive hope.
Right, not just wishing on a star.
Active hope. Active hope says, I resolve to make tomorrow better. It places the locus of control firmly inside yourself.
This ties into Carol Dweck's growth mindset.
Yes. A fixed mindset believes your abilities are static. A growth mindset believes they can be developed.
It's all about your explanatory style. When someone with a fixed mindset fails, they think it's a permanent flaw. I'm stupid at math.
But gritty people search for specific temporary reasons they can fix. I didn't study fractions effectively.
A fixed mindset is viewing yourself as a statue carved in stone. Any chip is a permanent flaw. A growth mindset is viewing yourself as a lump of clay. You can always be remolded.
Wendy Kopp proved this with Teach for America. The teachers with an optimistic, growth-oriented style survive the grueling environments far better.
But what if you aren't naturally optimistic? How do you rewire your brain?
It starts with the language we use every day.
And this is our third practical takeaway.
We can change our self-talk by changing how we praise others. If someone succeeds and you say you're a natural, you are reinforcing a fixed mindset.
Because you're praising something they have no control over.
Exactly. But if you say, you're a learner, I love the strategy you used, you fundamentally shift the focus to the process.
So tomorrow, catch yourself when you offer praise. Intentionally change your language to praise the effort, not the innate talent.
When you praise process, you teach the brain that struggle is just the friction of growth.
We've built the engine of grit from the inside out. But we don't exist in a vacuum. A seed needs good soil to grow.
We have to talk about forging grit externally.
The people around us play a massive role. Let's look at parenting and mentorship. Duckworth used a graph with 2 axes. How demanding a parent or leader is and how supportive they are.
You have authoritarian parents who are highly demanding but cold, and permissive parents who are highly supportive but demand nothing.
So which quadrant works best?
The data overwhelmingly points to the upper right quadrant, highly demanding and D's highly supportive. Wise parenting.
It's saying, I expect greatness from you, and I'm going to be right here in the mud helping you achieve it.
But leaders and parents have to model grit themselves. Hypocrisy destroys grit instantly.
Outside the home, extracurricular activities are a massive catalyst for grit.
Because they provide an adult in charge who isn't your parent and a structured environment for practice.
Duckworth created the grit grid to measure this. It tracks multi-year commitments to an activity. Sticking with something through the boring plateaus is a massive indicator of future success.
But enforcing that follow-through at home is a nightmare.
Which brings us to our fourth and maybe best practical takeaway, the hard thing rule.
It's a brilliant framework for families and teams. 3 simple parts. First, everyone must pick a hard thing that requires daily, deliberate practice.
Even the parents.
Yes. Second, nobody's allowed to quit until the natural interval is over. If you start track, you finish the season.
Because it prevents you from quitting on a bad day. You have to push through to the finish line.
And third, you get to pick your own hard thing. You have autonomy, but you are held accountable to the perseverance.
I love that. And this concept scales up to entire organizations. We're heavily influenced by the culture we join.
Joining a gritty culture is a cheat code for personal grit.
That's our fifth takeaway. Consciously join a gritty culture. It's like stepping onto a moving walkway at an airport. The environment's momentum physically pulls you forward.
We see this with the Finnish concept of sissu, this cultural expectation of having the guts to persevere against bad fortune.
Or Jamie Dimon at JP Morgan Chase, making fortitude a core corporate value. Or Coach Anson Dorrance at UNC, using the grit scale to forge his team's identity.
The culture elevates everyone within it.
But we have to address the elephant in the room. Is there a dark side to this? What if someone refuses to quit a toxic job because they want to prove they are gritty?
Aristotle argued that every virtue taken to an extreme becomes a vice. Grit without perspective is just blind stubbornness.
Quitting isn't always the opposite of grit.
Right. And character is plural. Goodness and morality must always trump grit. You want to be a gritty hero, not a gritty villain.
This has been a masterclass. Let's summarize the key insights for you, the listener.
First, let go of the naturalness bias. Talent is a distraction. Effort counts twice.
Second, build your goal hierarchy. Be stubborn about your top-level goal, but flexible with your daily tactics.
Third, grow grit internally through deliberate practice and an other-centered purpose.
And fourth, foster an act of hope by praising the process and implement the hard thing rule to build external grit.
Here is a final challenge for you this week. Reflect on your own treadmill test. What is the hard thing in your life right now, and how are you handling the urge to step off the machine? Use the tools we discussed to stay on.
Incredible. And before we go, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought.
If culture shapes identity, then grit isn't just an individual asset, it is a social contagion. The social multiplier effect means you have a profound responsibility.
When you refuse to quit, you aren't just achieving your goals. You are modeling perseverance for everyone around you.
Your personal grit might be the exact spark of hope someone else desperately needs to see.
Keep your compass steady and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Thank you so much for tuning into the Mindset in Stone podcast. We'll see you next time.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.